their eyes. Thus says Adonai Elohim, are you he of whom I have spoken in former days by my servants the prophets of Israel, who prophesied for years in those days that I would bring you up against them? And it will come to pass at the same time when Gog comes against the land of Israel, says Adonai Elohim, that my fury will show in my face. For in my jealousy and in the fire of my wrath I have spoken. Surely in that day there shall be a great earthquake in the land of Israel, so that the fish of the sea, the birds of the heavens, the shamayim, the beasts of the field, the creeping things that creep on the earth, and all men who are on the face of the earth shall shake at my presence.
Wow.
The mountains shall be thrown down, the steep places shall fall, and every wall shall fall to the ground. I will call for the sword against Gog throughout all my mountains, says Adonai Elohim. Every man's sword will be against his brother, and I will bring him to judgment with pestilence, bloodshed, and I will rain down on him, on his troops, on the many peoples who are with him.
Come on.
Flooding rain, great hailstones, fire and brimstone. Thus I will magnify myself and sanctify myself, and I will be thrown, and I will be known, I will be known in the eyes of many nations. Then they shall know that I am Yahweh. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. So when we went to the land the first time, and the heathens were afraid, they had heard the report of what our Yah did to Egypt, and they were afraid. Because they heard about the blood, the frogs, the lice, the flies, the boils. They heard about the hail falling from the sky, darting on the ground like lightning and becoming flame. They heard about the locusts. They heard about the 3 days of darkness, and they heard about the death to the firstborn. They heard. The report of your Yah in you went out. They heard. They were afraid. And that was the greatest nation on the earth 3,650 years ago, Egypt. Now fast forward 3,650 years into the present, or into the future, which is now. And you're looking for the greatest nations on earth that represent the military might and power of the heathens. And when Israel is brought back into the land and dwells in unwalled villages, then Yah takes the hooks, puts them into the mouth, and turns Gog around from up in Syria and brings it down from the north into Israel against those who dwell in unwalled villages, dwelling safely. And their judgment, because it says before he comes, when he comes, the earth will shake in that day. It's called a great earthquake. It will shake at his presence. You all read this. It says every mountain will be thrown down. Haven't y'all read that someplace earlier today? Didn't we read this earlier today in another book of prophetic utterances? It says, I will call for my sword against Gog throughout all my mountains, which means he's in Israel. Yah comes to Israel, in Israel, when the judgment comes, because Gog is in Israel when Yah judges the nations. That's what it means. And I will bring him to judgment, this is verse 22, watch, with the pestilence and with bloodshed. I will rain down on him and on his troops and on many people who are with him, flooding rain, great hailstones, fire, and brimstone. Now, you know, when we taught earlier today, we said, remember Sodom and Gomorrah? What's the difference between a stone and a brimstone? If I take the word brim off, you still got the what? Stone. I put the brim on. What kind of stone is it?
Fire.
Firestone.
So now I put the ice with the stone. It's a hailstone. So I'm going to get you with one element. And when I get through getting your backside, Gog, with that element, I'm going to turn around and I'm going to get you with a fiery brimstone. I'm going to get you with a very icy brimstone, and I'm going to turn around and I'm going to get you with a fiery brimstone. Because then that place will be called the Valley of Haman God. We're dealing with valleys today, if y'all been noticing. We have been dealing with the Valley of Akor. We've been dealing with the Valley of Ajalon. We done dealt with the Valley of Bagrai or Kar for blessings. Now, if you keep reading into 39, you will see a place called the Valley of Haman God. That's where God meets his defeat.
Come on.
All right? And all this is over you. Now, if Azaziyahu will take us to Jeremiah 51, 60 and 63, and then Ari read Revelation 8, 1 through 6. Zuriyahu take us to Revelation 8 and 7, and we'll finish up in the book of Revelation. Just another 10, 15 minutes. Y'all all right? Can we do another 10 things?
Okay. Can you repeat that second one?
Okay, I will read them again. So everybody who didn't get it, let's write this down, please, beloved. We're going to go and read Yirmiyahu 51, 60 and 63. We're going to read Revelation chapter 8, verse 1 through 6. And then when our brother finishes that verse, then Zuriyahu will read the 8th chapter, verse 7 of the same book. We will need either, Ari to read Revelation 11, 15 through 19, and we're going to close with Azaziyahu reading 16, 12 through 21, and Zuriyahu closing with Revelation 18, 16 through 24.
Okay.
All right? So for the sake of brevity, I'm going to give very little comment. I'm going to let the scripture speak for itself and allow the Holy Spirit to move upon all of us so we can see what is actually happening here in the days that are going to come. I can read for us, Jeremiah.
Okay. Jeremiah 51, verse 60 to 63. So Jeremiah wrote in the book all the evil that will come upon Babel, all these words which have been written concerning Babel. And Jeremiah said to Saraiah, when you come to Babel and see it, and read all these words, then you shall say, O Yahweh, you have spoken concerning this place to cut it off, so that none should dwell in it, neither man nor beast, for it is a ruin forever. And it shall be, when you have ended reading this book, that you shall tie a stone to it and throw it in the middle of Parah.
Y'all hear that? Say that again, Aki.
Which one, the whole verse?
The whole verse. You got to read that. Rigger. Y'all understand that the prophet is telling you, this is not for Babylon then, this is for Babylon. When you come to are you in Babylon?
Yep.
When you come to Babylon, read this book in his hearing. Now, this is exactly what you're doing. He didn't tell it that when you finish reading, put a sandal on it. He didn't tell you put a staff on it. He said, when you finish reading it, tie a what around the book?
Like stone.
A stone. And do what with it?
Throw it into the middle of Parah.
So the book represents the word of Yah, and the stone represents judgment, and Babylon is about to be judged by the word of Yah. Divine stoning is on the way. Y'all, can we read that one more time, please, sir?
Verse 63. No, I'll start from the top.
Okay.
So Jeremiah wrote in the book all the evil that will come upon Babel, all these words which have been written concerning Babel. And Jeremiah said to Saraiah, when you come to Babel and see it and read all these words, that you shall say, O Yahweh, you have spoken concerning this place to cut it off, so that none shall dwell in it, neither man nor beast, for it is a ruin forever. And it shall be, when you have ended reading this book, that you shall tie a stone to it and throw it into the middle of Parah.
Tie a stone to the book. Tie a stone to the book of the word of Yah and throw the book with the stone on it into the Euphrates. Parah. Because that's Parah in Hebrew means Euphrates. And so we know that our land was supposed to be from the rivers of Egypt to the great river what? Euphrates. How did God give you a land and not judge the land that the heathens was in? That A, kept you captivity because Babylon kept you captivity, and B, how could you receive the fullness of the promised land while the heathens would be dwelling in that land that's promised? That land needed to be judged. The land that's held you in captivity now, it will be judged. You are witnessing something that occurred, something that is occurring, and when you read the book of Jeremiah, we were to say, Yah, you have spoken against this place to cut it off. I ain't speaking against it. Some of y'all are afraid to speak the truth. Y'all afraid, Brother Princeton spoke to. No, I'm speaking the words of Yah. You need to speak the same words. What we need to be saying is Yah. You done spoke according to your words to cut this place off, that nobody remain in it. Neither man nor beast shall dwell there forever. It's a forever perpetual desolation. Now you need to get out of the way after you said that and watch what he do. Don't you see that the Creator is putting the right two people in place no matter which one become president? It is pride that go before the destruction and a hearty look before the fall. We're going to make America great. And you can't finish our full sentence. We're going to make America work again. You ain't going to finish a full sentence. Y'all just, are we hearing? All this is wrapped up in pride. There is nothing that talks about taking care of the sick, the homeless, the widow, the fatherless. There is no plan for that. It is all about pride. It is about the exterior appearance and whitewashing of a lie to keep it hidden, because inside it is dead man's bones.
It'll never work for us.
Never work for us. It'll never work for us. No more commentary for me. I just want you to, could you read the last verse that I stopped you at, 63 again, and then I believe it's 64?
And it shall be, when you have ended reading this book, that you shall tie a stone to it and throw it in the middle of Euphrates, and shall say, so does Babel sink and not rise from evil, that I am bringing upon her. And they shall say, and they shall weary themselves. Thus are they words of Jeremiah.
So thus are the words of Jeremiah the prophet. So when you see that happen, you hear the words that y'all got, you speaking from this book. The judgment is against Babylon. Babylon's going to sink. This was the book. Why would you be on the Titanic? You know it's sinking. Huh? Mm-hmm. Huh? People use that phrase all the time. You ain't going to be on the Titanic. You know it's sinking. You in Babylon is sinking. You talking about, I'm going to buy a home here. Really? Are you really being wise, saints? Take us into the next words of the book of Revelation. Revelation chapter 8, verse 1 through 6. Now we're in the Besorah.
Okay. Revelation 8, chapter 1. Am I reading that?
Yes, sir. 8, 1 through 6, and then you're stopping at 6. Zuriyahu is picking up 8, 7, and then Zuriyahu is going through Revelation 11.
7.
Right, 8 and 7. Cain.
Okay, Cain. Revelation 8. And when he opened up the seventh seal, there was a silence in heaven about the space of a half an hour.
Well, pause now. Wait, pause.
Okay.
It's Rega. Well, just a minute.
Rega.
Could you read that again? And when you read it, could you please pause? There's a reason. Mm-hmm.
And when he had opened the seventh seal, there was a silence in heaven about a space of a half an hour.
Mm-hmm. Now, let me ask you all a question. When the sixth seal is open, in Revelation 6 and 12, it says, I looked and he opened the sixth seal, and behold, there was a great earthquake. Did y'all just read about a great earthquake?
Okay.
In Ezekiel, okay. A great earthquake was opened. A great earthquake occurred at the sixth seal, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became like blood. The stars of the heaven fell to earth like fig trees that drop from late figs when it is shaken by a mighty wind. Sounds like an earthquake to me. Then the sky rolled back like a scroll, and then it is lifted up, and every mountain and island moved out of this place. Did you read that somewhere earlier today?
Okay.
We did.
I think the same series of events are occurring, and then the next verse, which is in the same sixth seal, says the kings of the earth, great men, rich men, commanders, mighty men, slaves, and every free man hid themselves in the caves and in the rocks and mountains, and said to the mountains and rocks, fall upon us and hide us from the face of him who sitteth on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of his wrath is come, and who is able to stand? All right, so that's judgment, right? Okay. So now, when Ari reads what he just read, I want you to pause, because an event happens with us before the seventh seal is open. See, you are sealed before the full outpour of Yah's judgments on the Gentile nations. You'd have to be sealed, because you're scattered to all the nations of the Gentiles. The seal represents your protection. You, we, I, Israel is sealed in Revelation chapter 7, verse 1 through verse 10. You're sealed. You're sealed. That's the end of the sixth seal. When the end of the sixth seal occurs, we go to chapter 8. When we go to chapter 8, Ari, read it again, and then pause after the word a half an hour. Because I want you to get the effect of what happens here.
Okay. And when he had opened the seventh seal, there was a silence in heaven about a space of a half an hour.
Rega, who opens the seventh seal?
Yahweh.
Come on, Zuriyahu, help me out. That might sound like Yahweh. Who is able to take the scroll and loose its seven seals? Yahweh Shai. So the Messiah is the one who opens the seventh seal after you are sealed. You are sealed. At the events of the sixth seal, before the seventh seal, you are sealed. Because when the seventh seal occurs, you got to pause for a moment. Just the space of a half an hour. And I don't mean earthly half an hour. Because if a day unto Yah is like 1,000 years and 1,000 years like a day, then what is a biblical hour and what is a biblical half an hour?
Okay.
So you got to pause. Because after the pause is concluded, then you get the divine judgment occurs. Start now in verse 2. 2 through 6, and Zuriyahu picks up verse 7.
And I saw the seventh angel which stood before Yahweh, and to then were given 7 shofars. And another angel came and stood at the altar, having a golden censer. And there was given unto him much incense, that he could offer it with the prayers of all the Koshadim upon the golden altar, which was for the throne. And the smoke of the incense, which came with the prayers of the saints, ascended up before Yahweh out of the angel's hand. And the angels took the censers and filled it with fire of the altar and casted it into the earth. And there was a voice and a thundering and a lightning and an earthquake. And the 7 angels which had the 7 shofars prepared themselves to sound. The first angel sounded, and there followed hail and fire mingled with blood, and they were cast upon the earth. And the third part of the trees were burnt up, and all the green grass was burnt up.
Hallelujah. Hold on. Hallelujah. Now, though we read into Zuriyahu's part, Zuriyahu, come back and read 7 for a minute when I finish this. Do y'all see a pattern? Because the incense that rises when you burn it represents the prayers of the saints, right?
Okay.
So are the saints praying for the good of their enemies, or are these saints praying for judgment on their enemies?
Judgment.
So your prayers went up to the throne, and the 8th angel, because it says another angel, that means there's 8 now. It's the 8th angel that takes up the prayers and casts down the prayers upon the nations. And what the prayers were was this: thunder, lightning, earthquake. That's what them prayers was. So the Creator executes judgment And then Ari says, so the 7 angels who had the 7 trumpets prepared themselves to sound. Question, how many priests walked around Jericho?
7.
How many trumpets were at Jericho?
7.
When we sounded the 7th trumpet on the Sabbath, did Jericho fall?
All day.
I'm saying to you that when the 7th trumpet sounds, then the kingdoms of the nations will fall. So when Zuriah reads 8:7, read 8:7 and then take us into Revelation 11:15 and 19, Zuriah.
The first Hazon 8:7. The first Melech angel sounded, and hail and fire followed.
That is hell.
With blood, and they were thrown to the earth. And the third of the trees were burnt up, and all the grass was burnt up.
Isn't that the same judgment that happened to Egypt when the hail fell? All the trees, all the grass, all the greeneries. It's the same God. It's the same plagues. It's a modern day Egypt this time. It's the same thing. Nothing new under the sun. Do y'all see the same pattern? Only at a different time. It's the same thing. So if this 7th angel represents the symbolic blowing of the 7 trumpets, and we know the 7 trumpets that were blown in ancient times brought down Jericho, and then we shouted, then what happens in 11:15 through 19 of Revelation? Same thing. Go on, Zuriyahu. It's in your court.
Okay.
Chapter 11, verse 15. Then that 7th angel sounded.
Same angel, right?
7th angel.
Same angel, right?
Seven Melech. You sounded, and there were loud voices in the Shamayim, in the heavens, saying, the kingdoms of this world have become the kingdoms of our Adon and the Mashiach, and he shall reign forever and ever. And the 24 elders, the Zakanim, who sat before Elohim, our mighty ones, on their thrones, Kisei or Kisa, fell on their faces and worship Elohim, worship our mighty ones. We give thanks, O Adon Elohim Almighty, Shaddai, the one who is and who was and who is to come. Because you have taken your great power and reign, the nations were angry, and your wrath has come, and the time of the dead that they should be judged. And that you shall reward your service, the prophets and the saints, and those who fear your name, small and great, and you should destroy those who destroy the earth. Hallelujah.
Oh, my goodness. Read that again, man. Say that one more time.
Which one, 19?
Yeah, 19 before you go into the last part. Just read that again.
Then the temple of our Elohim, temple of our mighty ones, our mighty powers, was opened in the Shamayim, in the heaven. And the ark, wait, is that the, I'm reading the wrong one, huh?
Yeah, you in the wrong one. You got
let me go back to 18. Okay, 18. The nations were angry. The wrath has come in the time of the dead that they should be judged, and that you should reward your servants, the prophets and the saints, and those who fear your name, small and great, and should destroy those who destroy the earth. Hallelujah.
Now read 19. So if you're not one who destroyed the earth, are you the ones that destroyed the earth, Israel?
No, we're not the ones polluting.
We didn't pollute the earth. We haven't gotten rid of the ozone. We haven't messed up and raped the earth so it can't produce the fullness of its strength from the ground. He's talking to somebody else. He's talking to the nations who have the industrial waste and the might to have destroyed the earth. Read that last verse 19 before we finish up with Zeziahu 16, 12, and 21. And then you finish up in 18, 16, 24.
Okay, then the temple, we're on verse 19.
Right.
Then the temple of Elohim, our mighty ones, was opened in the Shamayim, the heavens. The ark of his covenant was seen in the temple, and there was lightnings noises, that's voices, thunderings, an earthquake, and great hail. Hallelujah.
Great hail. You know that great hail that we started this lesson out with, that I said, that we said the scripture says was a talent? How much is a talent?
100
pounds.
100 pounds of hail. That's an individual piece of hail. Now, if you can see all that little hail falling like chiclets, causing scratches and dents and damages, what will 100-pound hail that's in the multitude of sizes coming down at the speed that it would travel with gravity do to the nations of the earth? Judgment is coming. Destroy it, absolutely. Akeem, take us into 16, 12, and 21. This is Zuziyahu, and then Zuriyahu finishes up in 18, 16, and 24. Y'all all right?
Okay.
Hallelujah.
Revelation 16, starting at 12. And the sixth messenger poured out his bowl on the great river Euphrates.
There's that river again.
And its water was dried up in order to prepare the way of the sovereigns from the east. And I saw out of the mouth of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet, 3 unclean spirits as frogs. For they are spirits of demons doing signs, which go out to the sovereigns of the entire world to gather them to the battle of that great day of Yahweh El Shaddai. See, I am coming as a thief. Blessed is he who is staying awake and guarding his garments, lest he walk naked and they see his shame. And they gather them together. They call the place in Hebrew Har Megiddo. And the seventh messenger poured out his bowl into the air.
So we're going to say this to you. Wait a minute. Hang on a second. We're going to say to you that the angel of the seventh seal and the angel of the seventh trumpet and the angel of the seventh bowl of wrath is the same angel working at 3 different jobs. Here he come again. What is he doing this time? Notice how this done lined up. 7 seals, 7 trumpets, 7 bowl judgment. I bet you find some hail in this one too. Come on, let's see if we can find the hail in this one. I don't mean H-E-L-L, I mean H-A-I-L.
It sounded like you meant it.
It sounded like a lot of pun there. Okay, verse 17. And the seventh messenger poured out his bowl into the air, and a loud voice came out of the Mishkah of the Shamayim, from the throne, saying, "It is done." There came to be noises and thunders and lightnings, and there came to be a great earthquake, a mighty earthquake, such as a mighty and great earthquake that has not came to be since men were on the earth. And the great city became divided into 3 parts, and the cities of the nations fell, and great Babel was remembered before Elohim to give her the cup of the wine of the fierceness of his wrath. And every island fled away, and the mountains were not found.
There we go.
A great hail from the Shamayim fell upon men, every hailstone about the weight of a talent. And men blasphemed Elohim for the plague of the hail, because the plague was exceedingly great.
Hallelujah. So great hailstone fell out, 100 pounds. If you read them verses again, they're going to mimic all them prophetic verses that we all read together. Zuriyahu, please do us the honors as we close. Revelation 18, 16th verse through the 24th.
16, this is Hazon, the 18th chapter. No, I'm sorry, 18th chapter, beginning at the 16th verse. And lastly, as I said in the beginning, it is recorded for our hearing and for that we may gain wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, that we may love Yahweh with all our mind, heart, soul, and strength, and that we may love each other, our neighbor, as ourselves.
Hallelujah.
And that we may walk in faith, for the just shall live by faith. And it reads in this wise, and saying, Alas, the great city that was clothed in fine linen, purple and scarlet, and adorned with gold and precious stones and pearls. For in 1 hour such great riches came to nothing.
Ooh.
Every shipmaster, all who traveled by ship, sailors, and as many as traded on the sea, stood at the distance and cried out when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, "What is like this great city?" They threw dust on their heads and cried out, weeping and wailing and saying, at last, the great city, in which all who had ships on the sea became rich by her wealth. Boy.
Ooh.
For in 1 hour she is made desolate. 1 hour she is made desolate.
Come on.
Rejoice over her, O Shamayim, O heavens, and you Kodesh, apostles, Shelakim, and Nabiim, and prophets. For Elohim has avenged you on her.
Ooh.
Then a mighty Malach,
A mighty
messenger, angel.
Wait, another one now. So another one after the seventh one. There's that eighth angel again. Huh? Here comes that eighth angel again. What does this one do?
This mighty Malach, this angel, took up a stone,
Ooh.
with a great millstone, and threw it into the sea, saying, Thus with violence the great city Babylon shall be thrown down and shall not be found anymore. The sounds of the harpists, musicians, flutists, trumpeters shall not be heard in you anymore. No craftsman of any craft shall be found in you anymore. The sound of a millstone shall not be heard in you anymore. The light of a lamp shall not shine in you anymore, and the voice of the bridegroom and the bride shall not be heard in you anymore. Your merchants were the great men of the earth, for by your sorcery all the nations were deceived. And in you was found the blood of the prophets and the saints and all who were slain on the earth. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. So when you find this end time mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the planet Earth, she is the one who dwelled with merchant ships because slavery was her institution of commerce in the day. When you find her, she will be the one who is full of sorcery because witchcraft and tarot card reading and Ouija board reading and 1-9 dial up a psychic in the middle of the night is a part of who she is. When you find her, she has the blood of the saints saturated on her streets, in her villages, in her towns, and in her wayward places. Every place that she's ever had emerged, she sold the children of Yah in slavery there. Don't you know that New York City Stock Exchange was one of the first places that they put us on the auction blocks when we got here? Don't we know that you can go into Virginia and see a place called Israel Hill, where Israel itself was set free, and it said the Israelites themselves created this free town, but the town next to it was saturated with the blood. The land that we dwell in is saturated with the blood of the sons and daughters of Yah. That it has come up before him for judgment. And as our brethren have read so eloquently today, and I appreciate each and every one of you who read with us today, those of you who sent the messages in via the texting and those who sent it in via the electronic means, we need to pay attention and note. For your merchants were great men of the earth, and by your sorcery all the nations were deceived. All the nations were deceived. And in Babylon was found the blood of the prophets and the saints and all who were slain on the earth. How can you have one place that got everybody slain on the earth? Unless it was a place that had a way that all the nations of the earth could come to it and serve like a melting pot. How could all the nations of the earth weren't in ancient Babylon? But all the nations of the earth come to this modern day mystery Babylon the Great, Everybody but you, everybody but me, everybody but us had to come to this nation, and they docked where? At Ellis Island. Don't you know that in New York City sits the United Nations? This is the only place you can get all the nations of the earth in one place at one time, and in 1 hour, in one session, and in 1 hour her judgment comes? Yah himself will judge her. Great is Yahweh Sabaoth, who judges this nation and this people, for it is our time to possess the kingdom. So I pray, as we sit and read together, we listen together, we fasted, and we fellowship together, I want you all to be ye strong and of a good courage. Be ye not afraid nor dismayed, for Yahweh thy El is with you wherever you go. As we close in prayer, and we have an announcement after we finish praying. If Imam Zamiria will position herself to offer up a reminder, let us all bow our heads, humble our spirits as we lift up holy hands. I pray this blessing upon you. May Yahweh bless you, Israel. May Yahweh keep you, Israel. May Yahweh cause his face to shine upon you, Israel. May Yahweh lift up his countenance upon you, Yasharala, Israel. May Yahweh be gracious unto you and give you eternal and everlasting peace. For I bless you, all of Israel, in the name of Yahweh Sabaoth, Elohe Israel. Shabbat Shalom. Hallelujah.
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 Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Imam Zamira, do you have an announcement? Is she there? I think she's there. Are you there, Imam? Saraya left the meeting also. Saraya was smart. Saraya left because, I was going to call her next for the meeting. She might come back in because I saw a lot of you bounce off and bounce back on. So if Imam is not there, Imam Zamira, are you there? All right, so be mindful that the 23rd and 25th of next month, we're assembling for Sukkot, the Feast of the Tabernacles. Please reach out to Imam Zamiria and send her the necessary items that she has required of you so that we all can assemble for this joyous occasion. Everybody, and meaning anybody who has my number, feel free to call me after the Shabbat Seder so we can talk about any questions or concerns that you may have about the upcoming Kagim. Also, please get the information to her that she has requested for sacred visitation. Let us turn our attention towards Jerusalem as we would pray. Abba, thank you for this day and for this assembly. Thank you for the brethren who read together with us, as I have so enjoyed them in the spirit. I thank you for their kind-heartedness, their love and worship for you, and their discipline and obedience to your word. I thank you for the sisterhood of Benot Zion, who were there in support of their brethren, as we as a family came together collectively to lift up your glorious, mighty, and awesome name. For you indeed are worthy to be praised. We ask you to be with us as we go out and come in. Grant us success and prosperity in your name, that all we set our hand to do. Watch over our children, Abba, wherever they are, both near and far. Protect them from all dangers seen and unseen, and bring us, we your people, into the bond of your covenant. For yours is the kingdom, yours is the power, and yours is the glory forever and ever and ever. You all in Israel enjoy the Shabbat and have an awesome, yawesome day. Let all of Israel who love, worship, and praise Yahweh say, Hallelujah!
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah! Hallelujah!
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah!
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah! Yakai!
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 with our heart, soul, and might. Every day I'll praise Him in my eternal life. Looked up at the sun and said, ooh, sweet light of mine. I love to see you, you always seem to make things right. Love to see you rise, beautiful scenes when you go down. And in our oneness spirit, I know I heard His sound singing, oh, well, I'm just serving you like you. Oh, everything that I do. Oh, with all my heart, soul, and might, I'll be praising you forever in my eternal life. Walking one evening as the moon lit up the night. It's just so holy when you're under His real sky. Thank for the beauty and sovereignty I found. And in our oneness spirit, I know I heard her sound singing, oh, I'm just serving you like you. Oh, in everything that I do. Oh, with all my heart, soul, and might, I'll be praising you forever in my eternal life. Yeah, hallelujah, hallelujah, yeah, hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.